Today, I chat with the inspirational Diane Mitchell, who turned round a personal health scare into a well-being business that helps thousands. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to Alison McQuinney podcast, where we have conversations about business and wellbeing success. And today I'm so excited to be having a chat with none other than Diane Mitchell. Diane, a very warm welcome to the podcast. I'm really looking forward to our chat. To give a little bit of background on Diane, she is a mindset therapist and she's won several awards. She was award winner Best Wellbeing Network UK in 2025, Most Innovative Holistic Health and Wellness Company for 2023 and 2024, Best Wellbeing Network UK 2025, Success Business Academy. She runs a festival, and one is coming up fairly soon at the time of our recording. And she also has an online network. So I'm absolutely fascinated to find out more from you about holistic businesses and making them work. There are quite a number in that field now, and I think your tips will be very pertinent on the support that is available through your company. Now, tell us about your personal journey into the holistic wellbeing sector.
Okay, thanks, Alison, and it's my absolute pleasure to be here today. And thank you for inviting me onto your podcast. So, I've always been holistically minded, but actually moving into the world of holistics on purpose and with purpose came about 20 years ago when I was given 12 weeks to live. And the moment I was given that prognosis, a massive inner shift took place. I had no idea what it was, but this inner experience told me that I wasn't going to die. And I just remained resolute with that because it felt so real. And the feeling thought that I had inside sounded absolutely accurate to me. And it just resonated with every cell in my being. So whilst I was looking at all the information, the proof that something was seriously wrong with my system, I just had this other experience that told me I wasn't going to die. So I remained with that, and it was quite a journey. Everything as I knew it fell away in my life apart from my name, and as a result of that, I knew that that part of my life was over and a new beginning was about to emerge. And I embarked on a journey of, I was put straight into my oncology team and they supported me. I had a couple of visits with them every week. They offered me or instructed me to have radical surgery to remove my voice box, which I signed for because I just thought, great, I can live without my voice box. I will take care of the rest. And through this time and leading up to the operation, I just kept getting other inner, what I would now know as spiritual experiences. It was my soul talking to me, and I was just responding and voicing externally to what was going on inside. And I found myself repeatedly saying to my oncology team, look, I've had this experience. I don't fully understand it, but I believe it. And I also believe everything that you're presenting me with. So when you come to operate, please treat me. Every decision you make, treat me as though I'm going to live, not as though I'm going
Mm.
to die, because I believe I'm going to live. So consequently, it caused a bit of confusion in the medical field, particularly with my team. But I just remained resolute. And during that time as well, more and more, as if by magic, holistic practitioners came into my life, product providers. I became more knowledgeable. And also, my doctor had referred me to this website to look at on cancer patients, and the blend between conventional treatments and people who were presenting members of the public presenting with the desire to bring themselves or their children or whoever was in their network alternative methods of treating their cancers too. But of course, the medical field couldn't condone any of that. This was an information platform that was given to me
Mhm.
by my doctor. And all what was jumping out at me were the stories of healing from holistic health. And that just resonated with me. Even when some people made the dire decision to take one or the other, I was actually at that point happy to have this operation done to remove my voice box. But I just felt as though I needed something to support my inner system to eradicate these cells that were turned into cancer. So naturally, I just embarked on this journey and allowed these people into my life. Major like spiritual interventions, therapies, products, and services for particularly for my mind. Because when I was given that prognosis, whilst I felt from sort of here all through my body just became a sea of absolute tranquility, my head exploded. And I remember thinking at the moment, what has just happened? And I was looking at 41 years of my life in front of me. I could actually see it visually. Unfinished business, what I call it. These little things that get in our way, the grief and losses that we have in our life that I'd had in my life, and was some of it was unresolved and unfinished business. And I could see all these like tappets of unfinished stories in my life, but yet inside I felt completely at peace. And I thought, wow, what is going on, and what an incredible experience this is. And I made an immediate decision with myself when I came out the other side that I would come back and revisit that. And of course I did. And that's what took me into my mindset work and all the work that I do today. That's what created the foundation of the wonderful world of well-being. And also in that time, because I was getting these, call it spiritual uploads, my soul was talking to me. Perhaps some people would refer to it as my guides talking to me, but it all fitted with my physiology and my belief system. And it was just like a renewal of energy to my life, if you like. And the evening before the surgery, I was called in to I'd been in all day for a pre-op and then called in to meet the oncologist who was my surgeon who was operating the following morning. And through that meeting, something just shifted again. And I had this indication, my intuition, my soul, it just told me that the operation wasn't for me and that if I had that operation done, I wouldn't survive. So with that, I just made the instant decision to cancel the operation and cancel that team that I was working with. And I went home. And it wasn't until a couple of weeks later and speaking to my doctor, and she supported me brilliantly getting another oncology team, that because I needed an operation doing, I just didn't want that to take place with this particular surgeon. So they eventually paired me up with another oncology team where people from the first team, 5 people from the first team were in the second team. And it became apparent that I had choices of operation, not just one to remove my voice box. So that in itself was an incredible journey. And I led that team in the decision making. And I was given 3 choices. And the choice it was to do nothing, to have my voice box removed, because all the tests, the PET scans were still showing exactly the same as what had shown up the first time. So it was either to remove my voice box, to do nothing, or just to simply remove the mass and then take it from there. So I elected to have the mass removed, and it was in my main artery in my neck. And when they came to do that surgery, they removed the mass successfully and took away 13 lymph nodes as well. And I've never looked back. And here I am 20 years later with my voice box. And I had no drugs whatsoever in that time. Even when they sent me home with morphine and painkillers, I just used everything holistically, from essential oils to blue-green algae to supplements to therapies and cellular work. And as well, I had somebody supporting this explosion that had happened in my head to bring some balance to my cognition.
Mm.
So it was an incredible journey. And I did exactly as I promised myself. It was probably about maybe a year into it, and the person who was supporting me deciphering all these stories, and which was about me and my life. And really what was happening was I was finding myself, and I was totally focused on me. And in that decision, I knew right at the beginning that my life as I knew it fell away. So I sold everything that I had apart from the house I was living in. I even sold the company that I had because I knew that I'd outgrown that life and something new was about to emerge. So when I sold everything, then it gave me the time to focus on me, which I suppose would what many people would desire, but we never step off this treadmill of life, do we?
No, we
We're
don't.
in so many systems, and we're in business, or we've got to supply our families and ourselves with income from jobs. All these things keep us on the treadmill. But here and financially, I was in a position just to go, that's it. This now has to be my time. And I'm not moving forward until I've cleared this down. Some of the things that had shown up, I didn't even realize were playing out in my mind. And of course, they were steering my life. And what I believe some of it had actually created the cancer itself. And then when I finally resolved all that through the process of elimination, having the mass removed, never had any chemical medical treatment after that, I just continued to heal my life emotionally, mentally, physically with holistic interventions. And it worked.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I was way, way out the other side of that. I'd been invited to attend educational retreat on grief and loss. And the first slide they put up, it was by the Good Grief Foundation that we have here in the UK. They are actually a global movement. And the first slide they put up, I remember just sinking in my chair, and I thought, if I would have seen that slide years ago, what difference would it have made to my life? What journey would I have taken? So the retreat was incredible. And following that, it was held on behalf of the Good Grief Foundation, but ran by a group of secular nuns, and which was an incredible experience in itself. And of course, they're open to all denominations, and I don't support a particular religion. So it was really welcoming to me to see that level of wisdom and openness
Mm.
and inclusivity by the Catholic religion. It just really pleased me. So, and it was a place I fitted in. So at the end of it, I was encouraging other people who I knew would benefit from this to come forward. And then they asked me if I wanted to support them. So I started working behind the scenes, doing all the prep and for the retreats. And then they offered me a place to be educated to deliver their retreats. So I did. And then that journey, as beautiful as it was, became a longer standing journey. And then they invited me to train in mindfulness with them, which was an absolute gift. And that
Yeah.
was the first sort of solid structure of moving from the previous career and world that I had into holistic ways forward. So I was formally trained in mindfulness and meditation. And then from there, I went on to study the mind body connection, and really explore what happened to me in my experience, which brought a culmination of um, trainings and insights and research that I eventually put together to have the practice that I've got today, which is called Change Your Mind, Change Your Life. Because there's not only me who faces critical moments in life and you have to deal with it, but I took control of my inner world at that moment. And I also realized in my journey that perhaps that doesn't happen for other people. And I want them to be armed with tools and shifts and changes that can support this cellular shifting, if you like. Because had I believed what I was told, which would have all been through the thinking brain, who knows, I may not be here today, but I heard what they said. I was looking at the evidence. I believed the evidence, but something else
Mm.
emerged that was far more powerful and suitable for me and my life. And it just resonated with me. And I stayed with it. And because I didn't believe that I was going to die, I honestly believe is the reason why I'm living today.
You hadn't finished here. It wasn't your time at that
No,
point. I think that I have tremendous respect for the medical profession and all
I
the
do.
different levels in the medical profession and the
Mm,
treatments that they give. But I think it's only part of the story. And I think your mindset is so important, not only in medical situations, but other situations in life as well, that could
yeah,
perhaps be perceived as curveballs. And I know that with my own family, where we've had medical dramas and consultants, we listen to what they say and follow the advice, but then park it. And the mindset focus is on getting better and feeling better. And that is part of the solution along with the treatments.
absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I wholeheartedly support the medical systems we have. I mean, they help save our lives. They bring
Yeah.
fantastic experience and health options to the table. But like you say, it's just one part of it.
Mm.
Holistic health, I mean, the first documents on holistic health was documented on 1700 AD, and we're still using some of these wisdom and interventions today because they still work, and I think there's a place for both. And
Absolutely.
I can also appreciate and understand why the medical field do not have the capacity or the insight to tread into that field and look at what's going on in there. Just like people who work in the holistic field of ancient wisdom with modern scientific technologies that we've got now, have no inclination to go into the medical field.
Mm.
And that's absolutely pertinent to what we've got going on with what works for us. But they do go hand in hand. And mine's a prime example of how one can complement the other. I needed
Absolutely.
the disease taken away from my body. I just didn't want to have to follow up. I
Yeah.
just didn't want to have to follow up with aggressive treatments that I would lose the control over how my body was going to react to that. And I wasn't one for prescriptive medicine neither in my early years. And not that I'm against it, because there is a place for it, but if I would seek an alternative wherever I could, you
Mm.
know.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm prescribed a medicine, I will take it, but I
Mm.
try to deal with things without medical intervention, without taking medicines first.
Yeah. Well, the
And,
thing is,
you know,
Alison, we've actually got everything we need to heal
mm,
our mind, our bodies, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And nutritionally as well, we've got everything we need as humans
mm,
to support our life from A to Z from this beautiful planet. We've got everything that works naturally, and Mother Earth, Mother Nature, call it what you want, it will offer us everything we need. It's just about finding it,
it
you
is.
know. And but then, of course, we're so far advanced. We've got this medical system that supports us absolutely no end where need be, but there's just so much more.
Yeah. So tell us about the wonderful world of well-being. I love that name, by the way, and all that it does.
Okay, well, like I said, it came about through that experience. And when I became a mindset practitioner, I was working with a client one day and thought it's okay changing lives, changing minds, but this is one on one. And my experience with the whole of holistics in the UK, as well as when I went to live overseas, and then when I came back to the UK, the majority of them were still working behind closed doors. And I thought they need a platform. More people need to experience and understand and have these opportunities for their life, like members of the public. And because I knew what was available, what immediately got me on that road to recovery. But then this door opened and a whole other host of natural interventions came in. But not many people knew that. And I thought everybody's behind closed doors and these businesses deserve to have a platform. So I put together an exhibition, started it overseas, and then eventually I brought it back to the UK when I migrated back here. And it's the festival is now, it was called Wonderful World of Wellbeing Festival, but then working with another professional in another field, she came up with a great name for it, which is called Wellbeing is the New Currency. And we put that in place before the pandemic kicked in, but now it truly is the
Mm,
new currency, isn't it? And that is about providing platforms where businesses can come, holistic businesses can come and showcase what they do, all sorts of ranges. And we tend to keep it as a single category event so that everyone who exhibits with us is a leader in their field. And they can also, it's a brilliant visitor experience because they're not seeing the same. Once they hit the festival, there's all these different options. And that's what I want to bring brilliant practitioners who are really passionate about what they do and genuine about what they do. That I know that once those festival doors open, I can trust everybody who's showcasing with the people who come through the door, because I treat them as though they're all my clients, the business people and the visitors to the festival, and I want to know they're in great hands. So of course, there's quite a vetting process, what goes on behind the scenes to bring in the exhibitors. But then I can sit comfortably once the doors are open and know that everybody who treads through that front door, they're in great hands and they're going to be given brilliant either therapies or introductions to therapies and taster sessions, but also all the other interventions, holistic products and services. And then long into the future, they can make that face-to-face connection and then continue those relationships well beyond that event. So that runs once a year, and that's coming up on the 6th of June in Sunbury on Thames here in Surrey. So that's one element of how first initially the wonderful world of wellbeing came about. I'm just moving here because it's a really hot day and I'm so grateful for that, but I'm so hot as well. So I'm just putting my fan back on. So that's one element of and how we originally started up. And then, of course, we went into the pandemic, and what happened was we was at the foot of a festival which went west, like lots of other events, and the whole world closed down, didn't it? Physically, face to face. And my business community came to me asking what I could do. And at that stage, I was obviously a mindset practitioner, tons of business experience. I went into business at the age of 19 and this is my 5th business that I've created them all from scratch. They've all been successful. And I've just worked through and evolved and evolved and evolved as I've grown and changed. So I had tons of business experience and business qualifications. But for some reason, which I think was based on trust, my business community just came forward and said, what can you do for us? What do we do? Everyone was just lost, weren't they? So initially I started helping them on a one-to-one basis around fear, the magnitude of finance and the losses and separation away from the families, and they'd just lost the businesses, it stopped trading, and they weren't prepared for online. So of course I had to learn some skills, but immediately I put my business online and brought the network together. And then as I was working with business owners one-to-one, I thought, actually, this pandemic is going to go on longer than what we're being told. I just instinctively knew that. And also when we came out the other side, life was going to be completely different to what we'd known. And these people who had trusted me with the platform for them to showcase needed that help, and they were turning to me. So what I did was I just took some time out and looked at all the work that I'd done, my coaching, how I'd been coached, what had worked for me in my practices, the programs I'd previously run for commercial as well as business owners. And then I looked at where we were today in the holistic field and started visualizing what the future was going to look like, and for these business owners as well, that included me, and how could I support that and help people transition into either taking the businesses online or creating a hybrid model, but also with the understanding that life as we knew it had changed. Everybody had been sent home to their own life, and that was going to make a humongous difference to what was going on in the mindset. And they would also I'd probably break in that process or come out stronger and another evolvement to their lives at that stage. But as we knew it had fallen away. So it wasn't about putting a program together of how to take your business online. It was about how to transition, find out who you are now, become aligned and completely accepting of who you are through a certain mindset interventions and soulful interventions, that mind-body connection, because we've more than this brain in our system. So it's about teaching business owners that. And the fundamental is about getting comfortable with yourself. And then when we've got all those positions in place, our values, what we stand for, people can say, what's your why? But you might say, oh, yeah, it's for my family. But there's a whole host of answers and questions underneath that need to be addressed and can be addressed really quickly and effortlessly, that brings out a different perspective on the businesses moving forward and how they want to run the business. So I start with all the inner work, and then we move on to developing the business. And people come, some are in business, some are aspiring business owners, they've got a dream, but they've no idea how to put a business together. And the thing is with holistic people, because tend to be full creatives, they open businesses just like I did with my first business when I was a hairdresser. I opened my first business based on the skills that I had. I had no business acumen whatsoever. I was just working on intuition, and it worked until one day I needed to move and I needed to expand, but I was stuck in fear because I didn't have the business skills that would logically allow me to build and change and grow my business. So I stayed stuck for a long time until I embarked on bringing in a business coach in my field to support me in learning those skills that I was just lacking. And that opened up a whole different ballgame altogether. And that's what part of what I bring to the academy, giving
Mm.
people the business skills from someone who understands the holistic field, from someone who has been recognized for the innovation and the awareness that I brought to the industry. And I share all of that and more with the people who join the academy. And it's wonderful because everybody's working in different paces, and I meet people where they're at and take them on that journey. And it's just incredible to see. I've even had people who have grown and evolved that much through the program. Can actually, I want to do something else, or I've realised perhaps that another model might look better for them. But everybody's individual and unique. So wherever people are, I support them with that to get them to a place of creating a business and knowing how to present it. Even, as we evolve and with all the support that comes from personal development, that we overlay into our businesses, it's even teaching people a new language of how
Mm.
to think like a business owner. And I don't mean in a stuffy way neither, just to be really comfortable with who they are and giving them skills that are going to make them feel completely grounded, that gives them the confidence to open up a different level of conversations at a much elevated level with their clients, and also about opening up new services where need be. One of the guys who's in my academy at the moment is going to put a whole retail section inside of his healing business that's absolutely incredible anyway. But it's inspired him to add more therapies and services, packages for his clients. He goes out on location, he works from home, and in that academy as well, we developed a clinic for him as a place where he can call his clinic where he works from. And then on top of that is created all these other lovely services, retail services that people can purchase from him without even having to have his physical therapy, that will assist them at home with what they're doing. It's just,
And I think
it's absolutely incredible how people continue to evolve. They never cease to amaze me. You
no,
just need the right support.
I think what's lovely about you, Diane, is that you've got the holistic experience, but you've also got the business experience as well, and the business nous. And I know from chatting with you earlier that we discovered almost by chance that we've both run the same business networking group, Omni Local for Teddington and Twickenham. And
Yes.
that wasn't a deliberate thing. We just sort of did it in our own bat and then found out that you did it but several years before me, and I currently hold the button. And, I think within that, that there is a skill to pitching a holistic service to other business people who are not in the well-being sector, because
That's
some of
right.
them view it all as very woo-woo, and it's
Mm.
about coming across as not woo-woo and actually this could be really beneficial for you.
Yes. And it's about the language that we use,
Yeah.
knowing your audience, knowing who you've got in front of you, and when I hosted those meetings, I mean, they were truly incredible. And I'll always be grateful to John for providing that opportunity for me. And I took on that when I first moved to Surrey. I think it was 8 or 9 years ago. And it just opened doors to a brilliant business community. But I also adjusted the language that I used
Yeah.
so that I could introduce them to potential work and this field, not just for my work, but to come and explore for themselves of the
Mm,
people who were in my network without feeling as though it's woo woo,
mm,
and yeah, spirituality, it's another word for it, is woo woo. But it's like, what's your perception of woo woo? And that when people go, oh, it's woo woo and back off, it's just pure ignorance and they just don't know. They're
mm,
not being ignorant, they just are unaware of the potential behind that wall.
mm.
And I did my first presentation with them. I stood and spoke to the whole business community in that meeting about my decision to emigrate and how that came about. And that was a spiritual experience. And I could see their eyes rolling and, they were sort of going, thinking, what's she going to bring to this table? But I fundamentally wanted to shock them into realizing that that spiritual experience brought me the most incredible, incredible journey to my life. That I'd already got a brilliant life, but it took me around the globe. And then from there, I opened other businesses. And that was my point. When we listen to our inner world, a whole host of other opportunities can open up. And when it's true to ourselves, and ourselves will tell us whether it's real or not,
Mm,
but when it's safe and appropriate for us, and you dare to go on that journey, your life is your oyster. And
mm,
the theme behind that message was don't get stuck,
mm.
because people think I'm in this business and this is my safety net and they daren't move. And I was actually there before I had business training and development that opened up that perspective, but it was a great invitation. I mean, I was so welcomed after that. I think once they came down and thought, oh, must be something in this,
Mm.
you know, that I was really embraced. And I do believe lives were changed in that with the direct support from myself and then introducing some of the businesses to my business community as well
Yeah.
to support them on their journey. So it worked perfectly,
Yeah. I mean,
and I,
a key reason why I decided to focus my podcast on business and well-being. I've got a business background as well as being a healer. Um, but you could argue those are two niches, and you would be right. But I feel that actually there's a need for integration here in the same way as there's a need for healing and holistic therapies to become more integrated with the medical teams. Also, I think there's an importance in holistic firms becoming more integrated with business because it's about trying to help business people who can be very stressed, who can be prone to burnout, who can be working too hard under a lot of pressure, trying to give them a tool set so they don't become ill, or if they do become ill, they're not as ill as they might be without that support.
True. Preventative.
Yeah.
Preventative works. And there are a lot of companies um, actually moving over and shifting and bringing in holistic interventions. I mean, thankfully, when I arrived back in the UK, and the first thing I thought, I'll just see what mindfulness groups are around because I needed a mentor. As a professional, we need people who we can debrief with, who we can also continue to develop our skills with. And I was really shocked at how commercial mindfulness is in the Northern Hemisphere. And where we're in a place where there's so much stuff, so many choices, so much activity. It's no wonder the heads were scrambled. And I took a scrambled head overseas with me when I emigrated. But in that exchange of commercialism, people have found some sort of normality with it.
Mm.
And a diamond from the pandemic was, and I just said this in an online academy group last night, we are so blessed. And I knew the day we were sent home, 23rd of March 2020, for the pandemic, I just knew that it was going to change the way that people thought about well-being, because a spotlight would be put on the top of it. That's exactly what happened. People being sent home, they'd no choice but to look at themselves.
Mm.
And of course, that's the last place people want to look when they're moving through their life, is at themselves, because they relate to their external world. And this is business owners as well. It's all numbers, number crunching. What can this person bring to our company? Whereas the pandemic, because people were sent home, workers as well as business owners, they had that time to think and start processing. They'd no choice but to look at themselves, the mortality, and what they wanted. And in my experience, moving forward and working with business owners in the commercial sector or corporate sector, whatever you want to term it as, they've now got a focus on the person,
Mm.
not just what they can do for their company. It's about treating the person as a whole, which is
Mm.
mindfulness. So, and because of the level of commercialism in the UK, the first thing they want to do is introduce those mindfulness techniques, because it helps support their staff, giving them, you don't need to sit for an hour in a class to learn a tool that's going to absolutely get you out of bed on a morning, get you to work and function, and to be able to even have the ability to park something up that may be of concern to you so that you can operate at work. But also skills that make you feel inclusive at work, that you can do while you're on the job, to settle your nervous system and to support your resilience and build your resilience going
Mm.
forward. And I find that more business owners are really opening to that. And once we start with the mindfulness interventions, then they go, oh, they see the results with the workers and how they are to develop themselves as managers and CEOs of companies. And when that level's taken place, it's then actually, is there more potential here? And then they start opening up to what the possibilities are of engaging in services to offer their staff for mindset change and shifts, you know. And that's exactly what I did with my first business. Once I got my coaching, found the right coach. I mean, I was based in Yorkshire at the time. It took me some time to find the right coach. He was actually based down here, and he still coaches hairdressers today in Chiswick. And fantastic, fantastic. I had 4 years with him, but I engaged all my staff because I thought it's all right teaching them skills of the job, but they were dealing with people every day, and they
Mm.
were human beings, and they were my business. And I really cared deeply about everybody who worked for me. So I gave them all choice to join in and be trained as well. So while I went for one sort of part of training for the business owner, if you like, then I'd send all my staff down in groups or one by one for them to learn personal skills and them to be trained in a way that allowed them to grow as individuals personally, so that they could adapt that to the professional life.
Mm.
And that's what's happening now. I mean, I remember back then it was £8,000 a year I paid for that training. I think in today's world it's equivalent to like 22,000 pound. And I remember my accountant going, "Whoa, Di, this is a lot of money." And I went, well, yeah, but I need somebody. I need support. I'm on my own. And I got stuck in that first business, and I only moved from there because I was forced to, because it got caught in a fire and it burnt down. So that shifted me. And I said, but if I don't invest in my people, what's the worst thing?
Mm.
They
Mm.
stay with me and they're untrained in how to manage conversations and how to work better and how to manage themselves better in our workplace, and then we can have elevated conversations, more meaningful conversations, as well as them enjoying the time with the client rather than it just be an exchange of service. And it worked. And then after about 6 months, my accountant went, "Oh, I can see this is making a difference, Di." And then when it came to the next year, I was in a meeting with him and he went, he's signing up again. I went, "Yeah, it's a journey." And I was with that company for about 4 years. And I did it for structure and to take the fear away from me and to open up that experience of, I need business training and support. I've got all the physical skills I need. I need that side of the fence. And I've always been interested in both. And I do have a logical as well as a creative brain. So it worked perfectly. But getting your people involved. And
Yeah.
since the pandemic, that's a gift, because business owners, and I'm talking about logical business owners, not holistic businesses. I'm talking about the corporates who would just poo-poo this as woo-woo. They have really, really embraced and made inclusive. They're actually thinking about the welfare and well-being of their staff and teams. And it's not that they own that responsibility, because as humans, we're all responsible for who we are, but the business owners who have engaged with those principles and caring and considerate about nurturing the team and giving these life skills. You might call it a meditation, you might call it a mindset practice, but they're actually life skills,
Mm.
that will enable people to live and work better. So what greater investment is there than investing in your people? And that's a diamond that's come from the pandemic. And the other thing is, people, we never even heard the term on the news, mental health. Nobody dare use it. People were still poo-pooing, talking about unfortunate suicides and even well-being. They thought, whoa, what are they going to conjure up, and all these voodoo things are going. That's what the perception was. But it's opened up the world of well-being, shone an absolute spotlight over the top of our industry, and it's opened up the topics and discussions and softened the parameters around mental health. And for that is what I'm grateful for the pandemic,
Mm.
because it's allowed people to talk and to start talking, and men as well, men.
Mm.
Thankfully, we've got organisations now who support men
Mm.
and their language and mental health, and which affects the physiology and everything.
Mm.
From the West, we're trained not to talk, and men are trained to be the head family honcho and button it up, don't speak. Not just men, but women. I were raised in that environment. Don't have a voice. You just get on and make this world work for you. And fortunately, all those parameters are loosening now, and that's I
Interesting.
have the
Yeah.
pandemic to thank
And
for
I
that.
think that a very wise thing to build your hairdressing team up so they can have conversations with the customers, because customers
Yeah,
go to hairdressers, particularly women, not only to have their hair done, but for the experience of relaxing with a coffee or a tea and having a chat, which is good for your
chat.
mental health, particularly coming out of the pandemic when
Mm,
we were all isolated from each other. So it's a
yeah,
kind of unwritten service within
it
hairdressing.
is. It is. I embarked on because of the conversations that were taking place. I mean, people trust the hairdresser more than the doctor. It's
Mm.
a known fact, is that? And they tell you stories they wouldn't tell the doctor, and they certainly wouldn't tell the partner. They just need to offload. And I think I was about 21 when I embarked on my first counselling course, because I thought, I could tell that some of these stories and experiences that people were sharing with me, it was actually getting in. And I was at home thinking about it, and I thought, oh, I need a structure around this. So I embarked on my first not coaching, counselling course. And it was there that I thought, oh wow. So I went back to my staff and I went, these stories and like this, do you remember this and this? And they knew what examples I was talking about. I said, do you ever go home on a night and think about what people share with you? Because then it's the story of the mind, it's playing on, and then it takes a life of its own, the energy. And they said, yeah, some it didn't affect and some it did. So I offered them. That's where it all started, even before the professional business coaching. I offered them a counselling course and paid for them to have that, so that they could control what information they took within themselves, so that they were trained then to have a conversation, augment that conversation, be very present and be able to manage that, but then walk away from it without it getting in. And that was absolutely priceless, and it kept my staff healthy,
Mm.
mentally and clean. But it also counselling is a brilliant model for managing conversations and those processes,
Mm.
as well as managing your energy within. So I'm really proud that that was the first level
That
that
is
I just
just
took
such an
place.
important support service. When you think about it, not just for hairdressers, but for healers, for example, because quite often in a healing session, someone will just unload with you. That's part of their healing process, just to get it all out. But also, if you think of, for example, the emergency services running from one emergency to another and having to keep a professional face on while they're dealing with the emergency. And yet they must have days where they've had horrendous days that it's
Right.
difficult to block out. And so I
Yeah.
think that counselling support is vital for their mental health.
Absolutely. I mean, with my clients in Change Your Mind, Change Your Life from the emergency services. So I've been able to experience what their experience is in that. And I will start with the training that they're given to be prepared as possible for any eventuality that they present and to show up to help others. The training is absolutely phenomenal.
Mm.
But then there's a human being behind that training. And what you might cope with one day, and anything we see, we can't unsee it. Anything we
Exactly.
experience, we can't unexperience it. And it only takes one window for something to really get in, and sometimes it does, and but the sad part about that is they've got fabulous training, but they don't have a debriefing sector because they're so busy and they're out there doing the job. The
Mm.
focus on what has to be done and the pressure in that role, rather than giving them, to my knowledge, and through what I've been, people have shared with me, there's no debriefing
Mm.
at all. And it's all about expectation rather than the human person giving to that role. And again, if anybody's listening to this podcast and they're in that field, either managing that field or they're living in it, if you're living and working in it, go to your peers and suggest that a debrief would be so beneficial because it'll keep more emergency workers working in emergency environments.
Mm.
And they deserve it. They deserve that protection of the mind and the soul so that they can continue doing the work that they're doing. So they need help, just
They need
like the
support.
people.
And it's like who cares for the carers, isn't it? It's such an important aspect. I mean, I've been aware of, for example, police officers being attacked, and they
Oh
deal
yeah,
with that incident, and it gets processed, and then they're out again on the streets for the next
mm,
999 call that comes out.
yeah,
I mean, I think if I was attacked, I'd just want to take to my bed, quite frankly, and shut myself away for the rest of the day. But
yeah,
they're back out. They're so professional, so
yeah.
professional. But it's
That's right.
important that, we look after them.
Absolutely. Everyone deserves that opportunity
Mm.
to have somewhere to go to be held and supported and get out what's actually we've witnessed and experienced or what they've witnessed and experienced. There's something really, really transitional about the healing process to be able
Mm.
to clear that out of your system so that you can start afresh. And these people, the emergency services, they're all there giving us the right to walk around freely. They're out there, and it's the face of it's changed. So they're doing jobs that perhaps wouldn't have thought would have come about particularly for the police 20, 30 years ago, but they're still there. And
Mm.
they're there doing their job to give us our freedom, and they need the support. I do believe that some of the establishments in different areas have support, but it should be should be a global thing, because
Absolutely.
yeah, because
Absolutely.
we need it, they need it. And if you're in an altercation yourself, I was in a doctor's surgery, and it was during the pandemic, and I could tell that this doctor had just she was having a complete meltdown. So I left, and it wasn't until I was driving home she actually rang me up and said, "Oh, I realised." Obviously, she realised that what had taken place. She she was locked in her trauma rather than being able to hear me. And she said, "Please come back." I said, "No." Instead of me coming back and sitting in your room and spending that time, I said, "Go to your peers and tell them what's going on." I could see it, but I'm a professional healer, so I could see what was happening to her. And I said, "Please just take some time because you don't need to be helping everybody else. You need to be looking to yourself right now." And
Mm.
hopefully she did, but that was my advice, and I left it at that. And I hope that she did. And I'm sure at some point that she would have done, or one of her peers would have reached down and supported her. But caring for the carers is absolutely
Huge.
critical.
And also with COVID, that put unprecedented pressures on our medical teams. And, I know from people who work in an intensive care, and I think you have to be very strong to work in intensive care. I couldn't work there. They felt under pressure because COVID placed new routines that were just huge. They'd never experienced so many people dying at once in intensive care.
Yeah.
Um, and, after a couple of years of that, it took its toll for some people because
Oh
they just
yeah.
kept going, kept going, kept going because they had
Yeah.
to. So it's so important we look after people in those roles who run towards situations that we would run away from if we can.
100%. A
Yeah,
100%. And it is different strokes for different folks, isn't it? I
absolutely.
wouldn't want to be in that position. But yes, they had to, but they also chose to. They could
Yeah.
have gone, I can't do this, and step back. So they actually chose to support us, if you like, and support the people who were in those hospitals who needed that care through to end of life. But you can't even quantify the decision making of having to choose whether somebody's ventilator is turned off or not.
Mm,
And that wouldn't have happened in a regular year in the
mm,
world. It happened because this pandemic came about. Youthful people, elderly people who would have otherwise been living a really healthy life. The emergency workers were having to make decisions that far beyond what they would have possibly
yeah.
ever imagined or even been trained for.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, we knew the pandemic was going to happen because somehow magically it happens every 100 years. And they knew what kind of pandemic it was going to be, but nobody was prepared for it
Mm,
and trained for it and supported
mm,
to assist with the people who needed the medical care and attention. That was a travesty.
yeah.
And I think today, if there's people out there who it's still ruminating in the mind and they've got residue from it, just reach out,
Absolutely.
reach
Absolutely.
out.
We're here for you.
Yeah.
Um, tell us about your forthcoming festival in June. We've touched on it already. Very exciting. I'm coming along as well. Who's it for, and what will people get from the festival by visiting it?
Okay. Well, it's on Saturday, the 6th of June at Sunbury Manor School on Nursery Road in Surrey this year. And who is it for? It's for people who are either members of the public to come and visit all the different choices of health and well-being and holistic choices from business people who are showcasing. I'll talk about that in a minute, but members of the public, even business owners, and even holistic business owners who aren't exhibiting with us can come and have a look at all of the choices that's on offer. May inspire them to uptake services. It may inspire them to move into our industry. It will provide choices and educative ways of how they can live their life now and into the future, and also about the choices that's available. So to help them make bigger, better, clearer choices that they perhaps didn't even know they had. So we have an exhibition hall, and that will be with A to Z of holistic natural interventions. And then we have breakout areas. We've got 3 zones where it's all included in the price of an entry pass, but there's 20 talks, inspirational talks, workshops, masterclasses, healing circles, demonstrations, on everything. And all that is included in the price of an entry pass. And once you buy your entry pass, you've got access to all those areas. So you can choose the talks that you want to go into and the workshops. And in between, you can come back into the exhibition hall. We have people who just stay in the exhibition hall all day. And then we have people who just come and go to the talks all day. And you can do what you want within that space. But it's about providing informed choices, showing people what well-being truly is. A lot of people think well-being is about having counselling. Still, people think that today, even although our world has opened up. They think counselling, psychotherapy, or but it's not. It might be engaging in an activity such as painting or attending a workshop that will help relax the mind and relax the body. Or it might be attending an inspirational talk that gives a light bulb moment and think, wow, that can help and underpin and support my life. And if one thing happens to shift someone, then it's done its job. You
Mm.
know, my strapline for the festival is changing lives one festival at a time. And we do, you know, the feedback we get is incredible. So it's about opening the doors, supporting, giving the platform to the businesses that would otherwise be behind closed doors, giving them a chance to come out publicly, face to face, and meet new people, perhaps even some who are already clients of theirs or who they already know, and have that face to face experience. And then the majority of our exhibitors are from around the local region. So it allows them with ease and members of the public with ease to get to know these local businesses so that they can engage and continue building those relationships long after the festival doors have closed.
And finally, how can people get in touch with you and either to use your services or attend the festival?
Okay, so we've got a new website at the moment, so go to that. But we'll be adding more about the other services after the festival. So the website is www.wonderfulworldofwellbeing.com, and you'll see about my mindset work. You will see a little bit about the academy. We've got an upcoming launch going on, so you're more than happy to sign up for that if you're interested in building or expanding your business. And then there's a section literally focused on the festival. So you'll see all the tabs at the top. You can buy tickets for the festival online there, or you can even come and register on the door at the point of the festival if you decide to join us last minute. But we do recommend that you book online, and then we can keep you informed of everything that's happening. So, and we're open to the public from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. and it's free parking as well. So come on down, and children go free. And for an entry pass, it's including the ticket fee, it's £11.55 for the day. That includes entry to the exhibition hall and over 20 live experiences in the zones. It's an absolutely,
Very reasonable
really,
indeed. What's not to like, eh?
absolutely, yeah. So thank you, Alison, for joining us as well. I know you're going to come to the event, aren't you? So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to
I'm not
have your feedback.
exhibiting because I want to have a pad around the event first because this will be my first event. So I just felt it would be better to be able to wander around freely and just get a feel for it.
And you know, people do that. And I say, come along, you know, just
Yeah,
come along. And it gives you an informed choice as a
yeah,
business owner, whether you want to come back next year as a visitor or engage with us as a business owner and showcase your offerings or not. And
yeah.
there's no pressure either way. But people do come, and it's a great place to network as well with other professional B2B. So, you know, people have their own reasons for coming, and it's about building up the network and connections of other holistic
Mm.
practitioners, you know, and we endorse that with our network meetings that we have just for wellbeing business owners. You know, we meet online, and it's about giving them another platform to build their professional network in the holistic field. So it all works. So it's like a jigsaw, and people can take whatever piece of my jigsaw they want, what will help their life personally or professionally. And I'm happy with that. So
Wonderful. Diane, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing all this with us. Very insightful conversation with lots of positives and lots of positive outcomes. So thank you so much.
thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity that you've brought to the table for us to have this conversation today. So thank you, Alison. I really appreciate it.
And raising a mug to John Gower. Oh, I don't know, you can see it. Raising a mug to John Gower.
Yes, absolutely.
Bye for now. I would be most grateful if you would please subscribe to my channel here so that I can help grow the channel and reach more people. Thank you so much. Your subscription would be much appreciated.